Welcome to Gold Derby's Meet the Experts panel for film documentaries. I'm Charlie Bright, and I'm talking with Robert Greene, the director of the documentary Procession, which is currently streaming on Netflix. First question I wanted to ask you, Robert, had you been wanting to do something about drama therapy before zeroing in on survivors of child sexual abuse perpetrated by Catholic priests?
I think, thank you. First of all, thank you. It's nice to see you. Thanks for doing this. I think the awareness of drama therapy and the immediate understanding that I wanted to work with these specific guys kind of happened at the same time. But my awareness of drama therapy comes after years of making films that were sort of operating in that space, even if I wasn't actively thinking about drama therapy. Really, what happened was that I sort of had almost like a crisis of, why do I make documentaries? What's the point, really? What is the point of anyone making documentaries, not least of which me? And I read a book called The Body Keeps the Score, which is about how trauma is stored in the body, in the muscles, and talk therapy has only so much of an effect. And drama therapy is one method for working through trauma and effectively. And I realized that in some ways, that's what I had been doing my whole career. And right when I was having this knowledge, I saw that the press conference that opens Procession with the 6 men that we ultimately ended up working with. 3 of the 6 men were in that press conference that I just happened upon. And it just all sort of connected at the same time. This is an idea to move what we had been doing in documentary filmmaking forward, but also I just saw an opportunity to work with these specific guys and try to uncover what they're dealing with every single day.
So what was the process like of getting the subjects, both the survivors and their lawyer, who I'm sure I guess you would have to go through first, to agree to participate in such a thing?
Well, so there were 3 men in that video that I saw, and standing behind them was Rebecca Randalls, who is a lawyer that had worked with all of them. And we were smart enough to go to Rebecca first. And it wasn't really a process of, hey, Rebecca, we want to make this movie, as much as, hey, Rebecca, should we make this movie? We had an idea to use, my films in the past have used stage scenes and people playing roles to get at deeper truths, right? And so sort of just talking openly, like, hey, this is kind of where we are with our filmmaking. What do you think about trying something with these guys? And she, that started a series of conversations with Rebecca. And what you see, in the film, you see the first meeting we all had together where we are not only discussing our ideas, but we're also discussing, whether we should do it or not. The entire time we're making this film, every day could have been the last day of the project. And, for Rebecca, those discussions went on, like I said, for months, and she brought in a clinical psychologist who were able to ask us some, opening questions, to sort of see, was this even a feasible idea? I met with drama therapy, a whole drama therapy group, and I pitched them my idea, and they shot down early versions of the idea, basically saying something to the effect of, you can't really do therapy on screen. And so what we actually, end up doing is, the film is very much influenced by drama therapy, but it's not strict drama therapy. We're sort of using that as a launching pad to try to explore all these other ideas. So ultimately, really, the trust that you see us gain with those men comes from the trust they had in Rebecca, first and foremost.
So one thing that I'm very curious about is, what was the script writing process like for the survivors? Because they each drew up their own scripts, and I'm guessing that that script writing was something that was not something they had done before. So What was that process like for them?
So it very different for each guy, right? So let's go sort of least script writing to most. Maybe Mike Foreman, would tell us story after story after story. And eventually we were basically cobbling together something like a screenplay for him to then go with Monica Finney, the drama therapist, and for them to sit down and work through what he was going to do in his scene. For Michael Sandrich, we had Dan Christian, who was assistant editor and doing a number of jobs. Like most documentaries, we were all doing a handful of jobs. And Dan would just talk through his ideas. And every single time he would say, what if we do something like this? He would jot it down. And then we basically presented that to him in script form. And then Michael would then make copious amounts of changes and notes. And the dialogue needs to be this way or whatever. Ed Gavigan did his own storyboards that you see in the film. And those were just a jumping off point, because really those were all about getting us into the space so that we can then explore and improvise off that original idea. So we never sat down and say, okay, here's a program, go type your scripts. It was really about us cobbling together stories that they were telling us in different scenarios and then presenting them to them as scripts. And then they could edit those and give us back to us. And that's what we ended up shooting off of.
One of the other, in addition to the survivors in the film, you also have a very compelling figure in Taric, the young actor who plays the young version of the survivors in these reenactments. And I'm curious if there was a scene for Taric that was, when filming these scenes, that was more difficult for him to convey those emotions than others.
I would say, first of all, the scenes are certainly difficult for us, the viewer, to watch. They were difficult for us to make. But that difficulty, I want to speak first to the viewer, what your experience might be. You understand the difficulty, the uncomfortability that you feel watching Taric go through these scenes is an active choice. That's intentional, because we want you, the viewer, to be thinking about protecting that boy, because that's literally what an entire system was built up around: not protecting boys, not protecting children who are being abused again and again and again in the system. So that anxiety and that rising level of fear that you feel for Taric is a choice made by us and made by the guys to give you that sort of feeling, that empathy, that compassion for that boy. And ultimately, it's for the guys themselves to feel the power of protecting that child, because that's what they needed. And that's what they're asking us to go back and do. Let me go back and protect the child version of myself. But the truth is Taric was never uncomfortable. He always had his parents there. Or his grandparents were always just off camera. And even I'll be honest, I think even that annoyed him a little bit. He was 12 years old when he was making the film, and he's a remarkably strong young man. Dan, the location scout in the beard with the beard in the film, one of the 6 survivors, he's the one who picked Taric because he saw the strength in Taric that was sort of something that maybe as a survivor, he almost had this sixth sense. And I don't want to be glib about it, but it turns out if you don't abuse children, they can do remarkable things. They can be incredibly resourceful. They can be incredibly, if you give them the power to involve themselves, and you give them the power to say yes and no to things, they can do remarkable things. And I think when you see him say later in the film, I try my best to tell your story, which is one of the most impactful moments of the film for me. He's not being told to tell that. He's saying, I, Taric, tried my best to tell your story. And he's owning those words. And I think he meant every word.
One of the other really memorable, impactful scenes is during the shooting in the confessional. I think the survivor's name was Tom. Who
Tom is in the confessional, and Joe and Michael.
Yeah, talk about his own thing because his case is currently in litigation.
Yeah.
So when he sees that there's a lock on the door of the confessional, that was extremely triggering to see. Were you? Of course you were concerned about that, but what was your reaction when you saw how triggering that was for him?
Well, I'll go the global reaction first. The church that we shot in, that you see Michael, we do a whole scouting scene, and you see Michael pick this church. He shot in that he wanted to shoot in this church because it felt like an older church. The reason why it felt like an older church, and you kind of get a glimpse of this in the film, is because it hasn't been renovated like every other church with all this abuse has occurred. Most churches have taken the locks off the confessionals, and that's very good, obviously, right? Like that is a movement forward. There is you see Michael joking, oh, they've renovated, they put the columns there. I don't know if I would have done that, but he's commenting in a funny way, but what he really is saying is they've transformed these spaces after this abuse was revealed. And then we find this one church where there isn't a lot of money. There are not a lot of parishioners. People don't go there every Sunday. It's a less used space, and that is telling for a lot of reasons. A lot of them economic reasons. And then we go in that confessional, and there's still that lock on that door, where there should be never have been a reason for there to be a lock on the inside of a confessional door. And when that happened, we were all. He's the first to see it. We didn't see it in the scout. It's almost like proof that we weren't victimized in this way, because we're not seeing those details. And then as soon as Tom saw it, he was like, oh, and then we were all like, it took our breath away. But what was remarkable was by that point in the process, you see in the film, we say, hey, let's shut this down. Are you okay? Let's walk away. He's like, nope, no. We're using this. And then you later see Tom literally says, no, I need to take this. I need to do this now. I'm in the zone. I'm feeling it. And Joe then says, use the lock, the anger of that lock to perform the scene. And just to see these survivors take this detail that meant that honestly, we didn't even see, but they could feel the weight of that detail because of what happened to them, and turn it into this creative, invention really in the moment, was just absolutely incredible. And it just really speaks to them taking this bull by the horns and turning it into what they needed it to be.